Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Laureli Shimayo. This is MeWe Fairs for energizing body, mind, heart, and soul. We have events throughout the Northwest, many online. Today's one of our online panels. It's an awakening panel, and the theme today is plant medicine and vibrational synergy for health, healing, and spiritual ascension. There are going to be 5 or 6 of us on the panel tonight answering questions from the audience. We'll be talking a bit about the theme. We'll take general questions, and then we'll dive into some specific questions from audience members. It's a great topic to explore. We've got lots of different perspectives for you today and lots more people joining us. It's great to all be together to talk about this. And let's see. Yeah, I think let's just get started with doing the intros as more and more people are joining us. All right. Well, let's have, so go ahead and take like 2 or 3 minutes to introduce yourself. Go ahead and talk about what you do, and you talk about the topic, and talk about all the work that you do, and talk about your connection to the topic and kind of the evolution of how it's shown up in your life as much as you want to share. So go ahead. We'll have Galactic Ashley share first, and then Rye, and then Troy, and then Lincoln. All right, go ahead, Galactic Ashley.
Okay, here we are. Thank you, everyone. I am Galactic Ashley, and I channel divine guidance for star seeds, connecting them to their star families and galactic lineages. I use light language frequencies and work with your cosmic connections to facilitate high frequency healing transmissions and encoded activations. I am also very passionate about plants and how I feel that they are here to help us to remember and to understand that we can, like they do, can bring light into life and help us sort of become more grounded. I primarily work with the energies of ayahuasca and different master plant dietas. And I have a passion for helping people to prepare and to integrate these altered states of consciousnesses into your daily life. For me, there is no separation between ceremony and daily living. And so I love to channel the plant medicine consciousness and work with people if it aligns, particularly those that have a really hard time being in their body and or feel like they are not from here. I have learned a lot from different plants like Noya Rao and Ayahuma and Chuchuwasi about what it means to actually really be in your body. And to not have it feel so dense sometimes. So that's sort of the beginning. So thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Thanks for getting some context. All right. And next, Rye.
Aloha, my name's Rybo. I am an endocannabinoid enthusiast. Got into this space because I had started having seizures in my early 20s and self-medicated, wanted to know why it was working, how it was working, and continued deep diving into the subject matter quite early on before most people were talking about CBD or cannabinoids. Continued on that path and ended up developing some products and got into the marketplace. Wanted to not just peddle, plant medicine, but I wanted to really understand it. My background as a massage therapist for 20 years really coincided with that, and the synergy of what cannabinoids really are and how they are meant to work with your body. There's a great misunderstanding about what they are. We know little about most of the potential. THC and CBD are really well known, but there are over 120 cannabinoids, and most cannabinoids can be found in food. Your high quality foods such as avocados, carrots, turmeric, black pepper, so on and so forth. Basically, any historical superfood that has helped humanity move forward that is plant-based contains cannabinoids, and we're finding that some of those major factors in there are related to the endocannabinoid system, terpene profiles, and things like that that you might hear right now quite often in the media are really related to aromas and aromatherapy. So there's a really nice opportunity here to take the wisdom of our past and what we have anecdotally known for some time and apply it to a more pronounced forward thinking way that we approach health, healing, and the mind and body aspect of working with plants and synergistically helping ourselves blossom. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And I say, and you've got a store that people can shop at, lots of information in the chat. And right, I just said practitioners available, right, to support you in all these journeys. All right, let's see, we've got Troy up next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Troy J. Bacon. I am, I think, kind of unconventional in my way, Reiki practitioner and hypnotherapist. And I'm a Starseed walk-in. I've been investigating for the past almost 3 years. My nature is a walk-in, and a lot of what I've learned is I come from Sirius A and B. The Sirius B I'm investigating more recently and exploring the water element. I've been incarnating on Earth, though, I think for over 500,000 years, as far as I know. I've had many lifetimes here. Many of them have been as shamanic healers and channel healers. Hypnotherapy and Reiki are kind of just like the modern names of that kind of shamanic type of healing I've been doing all along. But how I got into herbal medicine, at least since my walk-in, was that in the summer, like right in the middle of the year of 2022, I got a virus. My wife actually had it, or I don't know if it was virus or bacteria at first, but it was a bronchitis infection for her, and then for me, it was diagnosed as a viral syndrome with one symptom after another, but not at the same time. And eventually, it ended up settling in my upper chest, and then causing a violent dry cough, and I lost my short-term memory, my dream memory ability too, and that was just before my wedding too. And so I talked to an herbalist, and she recommended I try lion's mane. That's like the number one thing she could recommend for brain and memory healing. And so I started getting, I believe it was lion's mane supplement at first, but then I started buying it raw from health food stores and just eating a lot of raw whole lion's mane almost every day. And that was like one of the main herbs that helped repair my brain and memory. I was only able to recover enough of my short-term memory and normal memory function just days before the wedding, or actually dress rehearsal party, enough to act normal. So that was part of my journey since my walk-in with plant medicine. There were some other herbs I was taking in a tea that was recommended too. I could talk about those, but lion's mane is like my go-to still, as well as other adaptogenic mushrooms that help regulate the nervous system. So that's how I got into herbs since my walk-in. But since then, or since before my walkout, was into herbs since like the age of 14 or 15, and started studying with an herbalist in high school. And then my martial arts teacher too taught me a lot about Chinese medicine. And so I've kind of dabbled in a lot of herbal medicines. I could talk about more of my history with that too. But yeah, lion's mane and some specific herbs that have helped me are more recent experiences. I'm also starting to offer a course that I'll be starting in January in my meetup group, Hypnosis and Reiki Network of Washington. That will be a free but optional donation course, or I think it will be weekly, I'm planning, or monthly at least. A regular meeting, not prescribing anything. I could recommend some things, but mostly talking about our experiences and what people have found works with brain and nervous system healing after viruses, including COVID, but also other viruses.
Great, thanks so much, Troy. And Dr. Lincoln.
Lincoln Stoller. I'm a, let's see, I've got a PhD in physics, and then we have a bunch of what other things? Oh, business experience and software, and um, then, this psychotherapy certification. So I have a kind of well, there's a big draw on using psychedelics these days medicinally, and it's as if they've just been discovered, and um, they're sort of been medicinalized or pathologized because they're being embraced by people who provide medicines for clients who have pathologies. And they're being celebrated for their abilities in particular areas like depression, anxiety, trauma, addiction to some extent. And, each of these areas is their own specialty with their own sort of industry and providers. And I am a provider of psychotherapy, and I am a psychonaut from before the time when it was being medicalized. And I keep telling people I don't even want to call them medicines. I mean, medicines, they're not medicines from the cultures they came from. They're, spiritual teachers. And so I'm really not sure. I mean, I know what the diagnoses are of being used to advertise them psychotherapeutically. And I have my experience with the well, they're not medicines, with, to me, teachers. Well, even then, it's like you'll hear what you're ready to hear. Sometimes you hear teachers, and sometimes you hear your past. But I'm very curious and somewhat skeptical about what people are coming to plant teachers for. And I can appreciate people who are in need, who, think that this is going to be a great opportunity for something that's been plaguing them for a long time. But, whatever you think you're going to do pretty much circumscribes where you're going to go. And most of these diagnostic pictures, well, they're pretty limiting. What are they trying to do? Get you back to work or back to normal, or talking and behaving like you're supposed to? And most of the psychedelics that I've had are invitations to go much further. So you have to sort of talk on these two levels. Are you focusing on some problem that somebody's told you you've had, or you've defined, or you want to explore, or are you, pursuing your own growth? And I think it's so great I think the two are the same. I mean, they should be part of your life. So this is the discussion I get in with people, if they want to get into the discussion. And as I mentioned before, I'm mostly involved with preparation, seeing where you want to go, and making it as big as possible. Because if there's one thing plant medicines do, is they don't really care about what your expectation is, or what what you think you're committed to doing, or going, or experiencing. And lastly, I'd say that I'm not even sure they're necessary, because most of the people who are sort of very well practiced plant medicine takers don't need much or any anymore. I mean, I can just get a whiff of ayahuasca, and it can put me back into that space. And some very sensitive people that I've, sat with don't want to take it. They just want to have, they just touch it to their wrists or something. I mean, it's possible. So there's a tremendous amount you can do with your mind, which I think has to be respected, because ultimately you're your own engine. Anyway, those are the ideas that come up, and I'm willing to entertain. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's great. I love hearing from everybody and all the different perspectives. I want to say that I'm mostly hosting tonight. I'm Laureli Shimayo. I'm an intuitive eye reader, body psychology coach, and matchmaker. And I happen to be a plant biologist once upon a time in my life. So I know a little bit of the molecular things, but this is like much more complex than the kinds of things that I was studying back when I was in the field. We also hope still to be joined tonight by Dove Light Oracle, who does angelic soul frequency readings, past life regression, ancestral healing, shamanism, energy and sound healing, and has her own experience with the plants. But let's go around and just talk a little bit more about the theme, and probably from hearing you all introduce things, some more things have come up that you want to share. So go ahead, we can go around again, and like Galactic, Ashley, and Rye, or Troy, if there's more that you want to share, go ahead. Yeah, we'll come back to you, Lincoln, also. Yeah, whoever wants to jump in.
Are you going around the circuit? Or are you asking for sort of popcorn?
It's fine. You don't have to go in order. Yeah, you can popcorn. It's a small enough group.
Yeah, I'm not worried about heard some things. It was great conversation getting to meet you all. It's my first event here at the MeWe sessions, so I'm excited to be a part of it. Thank you for your time. First and foremost, I believe that Hippocrates said it best, and I think that conclusive around the circle, that let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. And at the time that was plant-based derivative medicine, and I think that that can be transposed into teaching. The body is very intuitive, and when you're taking substances such as cannabinoids, for instance, the cellular receptors, they interact with the cannabinoids, and they actually reach out and pull in the cannabinoids that they want to elicit responses. So what Lincoln was talking about with some people being hypersensitive or being able to be around certain substances and elicit that response, that to me would be that their body has learned that lesson from that teacher and can actually elicit that response on its own through recall. So there's a lot of really powerful stuff that is being really deep dived into at this point in time by people that are seeking alternatives. The alternative that we were using for since 1937, if you want to go back statistically, when the big pharma really established themselves in the United States, is kind of losing ground due to the epidemics and the frequency of issues being related to reductionary methods. The entire pharmaceutical industry is basically just reducing what the plant was and losing the balance that the plant provides. You can look at like aspirin, it's white willow bark. They found some compounds in it. They took the other ones out. They lose the balance that is necessary for the human body and the human experience because, in my opinion, they don't understand the complexity of what our experience is. It's not left and right. It's an unlimited amount of variables that really play with our systems, and we're just scratching the surface right now. And in my field of endocannabinoids, we're really starting to dive into a lot of fun things that really start to enlighten what we were all talking about when it comes to mushrooms, ayahuasca, different things, and they all interact together synergistically, that synergistic vibrational connectivity. And for me, I look at this like a metaphor for humanity. When we work together, we operate better. And that seems to be the case with most plant-based medicines. When you have the right recipe of what to put together, you can elicit a wide variety of beneficial responses for the human body.
I agree, Rye. I want to comment on a couple of things there. One was, I like that you brought up white willow bark, and it's especially known for pain relief. That's like one of its top properties I hear about. And so at my apartment complex, there's actually two large willow trees in different courtyards kind of across the way from each other. But there's one that I go to meditate during warm weather and connect with it. I've also taken some of its catkins for just boiling his tea. Anyway, I go there because it doesn't have chairs and tables in the courtyard, so nobody else goes there. Anyway, I had a collapsed lung in July, and I didn't know what it was at first. I just started feeling pain, especially in like my back, and then up and down the back of my right side, and it I was kind of trying to tough it out through the day. I thought maybe I pulled a muscle, and then it got worse later in the evening and at night, to where I couldn't even move and get up hardly. But earlier in that day, I did cut some willow catkins, and they didn't fix the issue, of course, but they did relieve the pain actually pretty well for a while. But then I still had to go to the hospital and find out it was a collapsed lung, and they had to do the chest tube thing to let air out. And but yeah, willow helped in that situation for a little while. I'll definitely use it again in pain relief when I need to. I'd recommend it. I don't even take aspirin because I understand that concept too of needing the whole plant and understanding that nature is geometry in manifestation, and we see that in really every single plant. It has its own geometry, often sacred geometry, sometimes perfect in form, and just that alone, also with its many different biochemicals, I've known for a long time that that is needed, and it's designed for a reason that way in each plant to facilitate its optimum medicinal quality. Another thing I want to touch on that I was thinking about after I talked is recovering my dream memory. And that's something that I had struggled with in 2022. Early 22, a little while after I had COVID, I started to notice that I could not remember my dreams anymore. I knew that I had profound and vivid dreams, but then I would wake up and it was like living or dreaming a certain dream or reality, and then it's like someone just cut the film reel and then inserted another film reel, and I was awake and just couldn't get back into or remember the dream. So that was quite frustrating, and that went on for probably months. A big part of recovering that too was eventually lion's mane, and I feel that it helped a lot. Part of it was also daily dream journaling. To continue that, just as a practice to facilitate and grow the synapses of dream memory. And that still goes on. That's like a part of my personal religion, if you want to call it that. I see everyone as a complete synthesis that's inseparable of mind, body, spirit, emotions, and energy. And the more and more I observe it, the more I believe that you cannot separate the energy body from the biological nervous system, and the emotions too from the physical body. Yeah, that's a little bit of a tangent. I can definitely go on and on about that topic. But yeah, I also want to say about lion's mane and other herbs. I feel that they definitely have their own medicine and have their own energy, and can be quite powerful medicine just by themselves or in combination. But I also feel that you need other treatments often along with them, such as hypnosis or Reiki energy healing, or hypnosis is, by the way, very similar to psychotherapy as I understand it, but something like that, or also just changing your habits, changing your behaviors. That is often powerful medicine, but you kind of need it all together. I feel that lion's mane helped restore my brain a lot, but it was like a catalyst or a facilitator for setting up the brain to also be able to practice dream memory and practice better memory. So it kind of, I feel that the herbs are like the physical and also sometimes energetic support of the actual practice and behavior in life. And so that's like my main thoughts right now. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Yeah, it looks like Lincoln's got more, and yeah, Galactic actually probably has more too. Go ahead, Lincoln.
I sort of continue on this integration theme. Working with people therapeutically And sometimes that means just coaching them because, you know, illness is not, I don't like that label, and I encourage people not to hang it on themselves. So working with people, you know, and I don't know, this is my prejudice, but it seems helpful to other people to open awareness. I'm always kind of annoyingly encouraging people to be more aware of the memories they don't have, or the things they could remember that they don't or don't want to. And, you know, that sort of, you know, small t trauma, mostly the ones you don't really know what to do with. And it's often childhood or childhood related or family related or early adulthood related. Becoming aware of how you think and how you feel, how you see and perceive things, and how that fits in with present and past experiences. Um, there are, I'm constantly trying to get people out of their intellect. I mean, intellect is great. It's organizational, it's planning and executive. It's you can measure and compare and judge and contrast. But chaos is really the source of energy and innovation and creativity. And so a lot of my high functioning people are very intellectual, at least in the sort of organizational executive function sense. And I try to get them in touch with more chaos. And then the low functioning people are often overwhelmed with the chaos. And I try to help them organize it. And so when it comes back to psychedelics, I would like people to understand that psychedelics are just one way of touching chaos, which can mean, you know, the spiritual chaos, the sort of numinosum outside of your awareness, or the historical chaos of your unresolved issues, or the emotional chaos of things you feel that you don't quite know how to resolve or express. And, you know, most people reasonably don't want to get too involved with their chaos because it's disorienting. It doesn't promise you anything. And it doesn't, you know, like, not like intellect, it doesn't give you a clear path, which we're sort of trained to want and need and think we're supposed to have, and we're judged on the basis of how well we can do. And as I was writing the other day, you know, creative people are generally not very rewarded. So I mean, one of the reasons I'm here is because these people here are not the kind of typical, you know, straight ahead box vision, scientific, you know, data driven or evidence based. That's a word that drives me nuts. You're going to get evidence for anything you want. And I have gotten clients from these MeWe events, and they're much more capable of engaging with the chaos. They're much more open to not knowing, or, you know, distant knowing, or put any, you know, galactic knowing, anything you want, which can be chaotic or personal or different. And that's a great thing. So I, you know, basically encourage everybody to embrace the chaos. And when you go into a psychedelic experience, one of the best ways to approach it is in terms of release and acceptance. And, you know, it's not exactly that you wave the white flag of truce, but you're not fighting a war. You know, you're not, even if there are demons, and there are demons, and you do have to be discerning, but you're not out to, you know, claim this land in the name of Queen Isabella or something. You know, the psychic land is a bigger land than any of us can fully explore. And we don't even want to claim any part of it as our territory. We just want to become more aware and more facile and more accepting and more resilient without expectation. Anyway, now, see, I always like it when I can't figure out what to say next. Then I figure, I've I've reached the point of chaos where, I throw it back at you. So there you go.
That's great. I know we've gone around a bit, so I'm a Galactic Ashley. I want to give you a chance if there's something else you want to share.
Yeah, I don't know. I just loved listening to all of that. I think that sometimes when I think about the creative process and when I think about this sort of the paradox that we live in, I feel like if we can't allow ourselves to feel the tension, we can't actually create the thing that wants to come through us, because I believe that creativity actually comes through tension. And that's where actually the beauty is. And we are so geared in this culture to avoid pain. And that is the very thing that we are controlled by, is this idea. And it's more than an idea, because if I hit myself in the face, it hurts, right? So we have a pain body. And at the same time, pain is also not real. And so these are sort of the ideas that we can kind of play around with. On and that, so I'm just linking that into chaos, right? There's tension in chaos, and when we can kind of allow everything to happen and trust our bodies to kind of know what to do, because I believe that each of our bodies is basically a little earth, right? And we are our own cosmos inside of ourself. And so the more that we are cut off from the earth is really through being cut off to our own bodies. And a lot of us are like that. Even the most spiritual people are cut off from their bodies. And I really feel that it's about being in, like, just having like a respect and an awareness for the body and its own wisdom and brilliance that it offers us, while at the same time knowing that we are infinitely connected to everything outside of us. On a personal level, the plants have really been a beautiful surrogate for relationships. So at maybe the points of where there is interference, patterns that shouldn't, well, not that they shouldn't be there, but patterns that are there that are maybe relational in through experience, they've been really wonderful sort of surrogates. So it's like I can practice something with plants and then sort of transfer that to people, and then go back to the plants and go back to the people. And I find that whatever you're connected to, if it's like your higher self, or I just kind of call everything that I channel just very generically the beings when I'm talking in front of people. But the beings for me, which includes plants, have always been really wonderful teachers in teaching about boundaries. Because when you are working with the divine and you say no, you just have to say no. And it's heard and respected. And that is not always true with humans. And so for me, where there has been a lot of human trauma, I have received a lot of healing through plants, and also through sort of the multidimensional realm. And at the same time, being in different plant medicine experiences usually requires a facilitator. So most of my discomfort in plant medicine experiences comes from the fact that it is very important that I trust the facilitator and understand or kind of know that person, so that I can actually have this human connection and trust with the space holder and the facilitator, and also the other participants. And there's a lot of repatterning that also happens with other participants, whether there's a couple or 20 or 30 of them, depending on what's going on. So there's a lot of opportunity that happens. And I feel that with in sort of plant ceremony experiences, and I'm very much specifically talking about ayahuasca, that is like the smallest part of everything. So it's the before, the after, the time in between the ceremonies where so much repatterning and healing is offered when we're open and when we feel safe to receive the new patterning. And so I'm very interested in how trauma patterns show up in the body, what they look like, how they show up in ceremonial spaces, and just holding that, looking at it both in myself and holding it for others as well. So I think that's all. I don't know.
That's great. It's great. I appreciate the conversations bouncing around. And then we often go to direct questions from audience members that are deeper personal questions. And I think it might be great to just talk about the theme for a while too. So just audience, if you have some general questions, feel free to put those in the chat, and we'll attempt to address those here as we're just kind of going around. And I can think of some general questions too. So if there's something anyone wants to share next, and then I
Yeah.
can ask them.
Got
Go
some
ahead.
more after the conversation opened up on to Lincoln's point and Galactic Ashley's point. I just heard a lot about fear and how that holds us back from the chaos because it's the unknown, and there's so much that people typically, especially in our society these days, the fear of the unknown, it stops us from reaching out into that void where that endless possibility is. There's no structure. It's an unlimited amount of things, and there's nothing to fear but fear itself. It's been said before, and it's something that our society has, in my opinion, been indoctrinated with. We've been indoctrinated with fear, and it's limiting our capacity to really shine and vibrate together. Because individually you can vibrate, at your highest level, but the possibilities, if all of us or a community of people are all vibrating at their highest level, is phenomenal. You see the same thing in plants and in soil and at every different level. When the atmosphere or the environment is vibrating at a high level, it provides exceptional nourishment, life, vivaciousness, and those type of things. And like Ashley had pointed to earlier, we're all just kind of microcosms. Like, we are a little planet, like our body is a little planet, and then we see around us in nature the same stuff going on with us. And allude to the plants. So certain plants, when they're in trouble, they will give off different chemical pheromones, which they generate off of, get into the science of it, 4 different sugar molecules. They do exceptionally complex chemistry to create a pheromone that will attract other bugs in the area to eliminate the bad bugs from eating it. So the interdimensional and inner operation of how plants operate is very, very intense and connected. We're all connected, and that society has us fearing and feeling like we're isolated. This country, that country, this type of person, that type of person, this type of religion, that type of person, these opinions that are separating us is really, I think, holding us back from being our higher selves as a society or as a, species. So I really feel that's pretty powerful stuff when it comes to the chaos, which Lincoln was talking about. Just releasing that fear, being comfortable with the uncomfortable. And then the struggle, where creativity is created. The best art has always come from people in typically the worst scenarios throughout history. They really are able to tap into that deeper part of themselves and portray art in a way that is moving. And I think that's a beautiful thing as well. And I got plenty more, but I'll just drop it right there.
I'd like to mention something about learning. It's been a big thing for me, learning for my own life. And I think it's pertinent to the psychedelic encounter. And I just want to mention that the learning experience is often hard to identify. So you take a class, for example, and you learn something, or you're taught something, or shown something, or read something. and you might be told that you have learned it, and you might be tested and approved that you have regurgitated it. But the learning really doesn't happen in the class, in the reading, in the test. The learning happens sort of like a stew. It happens over the long term when you incorporate something into your life. So a lot of people say, schooling, K through 12 was a waste, and it is largely a waste because most of that stuff you don't incorporate, and it wasn't designed to incorporate anyway. So you get in the mindset that you're supposed to learn, it's supposed to be complete, you're supposed to, rank and grade yourself among the other students. And if you apply this to a life learning lesson, it's kind of a joke, like, where was the test in your last relationship? What were the lessons that you were supposed to learn? As if you're going to know them, you're going to spend the next 10 years figuring them out. And it's sort of the same with psychedelics, where it's a real sort of a crash course in experiencing a new reality. And you don't really get it by the end of the class, which is to say the end of the trip. If you might try to remember it, that would be a good thing. And you might try to hold on to it as much as possible. Not unlike a dream, but you're more present than you are in a dream, a little more intentional. Although that's an interesting thing. Lucid dreaming is a very useful skill used carefully. I mean, you don't want to sort of like be a bull in the china shop of your unconscious mind. Then you just, break everything. But so you have to handle it delicately. And the same with a psychedelic experience. And it's interesting, I have been getting back to physics. So, in the past, there are all these physics courses and you never understand what they're saying. And maybe you do well in the test and you think you did well. And now like 50 years later, well, 40, I'm getting back to it and I'm realizing they didn't know the key points. And that's why I didn't get it, because they don't get it. Because, either they're teaching you stuff that already is known and has limited use, or they're going to tell you what nobody knows and nobody knows what to do with. So you really have to understand the problem, and then you have to sort of go into this very strange state of not knowing and experiencing all kinds of things. And you get to the point where you say, I'm here to learn, and teach me. You call to the universe or the spirit or the subject, and maybe you learn something it slowly. So, a lot is preparation, but it's hard to prepare when you don't actually know where you're going. And the integration, which is often hard because no one's been there, it's just yours. It's your space. And then there are all the people in your life who've been telling you that you're wrong or you're stupid or you're smart or you're good or you're bad. And you have to throw it all away and try to build a world. And then, psychedelics, which show you this like, crazy pattern of interactions of all things. And, one of the most useful things I did was I did a lot of herbalism, where I try to extract these chemicals from plants. And I remember extracting DMT from phalaris, from grasses. And grasses are difficult. You probably shouldn't play with grasses. If you just look at what grasses have to do, they have to germinate all over the calendar. They have to be resilient, and you never know exactly what chemicals. So I managed to poison myself pretty well. And I remember taking this, substance that I'd created, and feeling like I was my head was gonna fall off. And this voice came to me and said, what the fuck are you doing here? This is not a place for you. And I kind of said, well, sorry, I was just kind of poking around. And it was very helpful to know the nature of the chemicals, that they were not going to kill me, even though it felt like I might fall over dead any moment, and that I would just have to walk it off. And it reminds me of all the sort of the witches' brews, which are very, toxic, and a lot of people, perished with that. It's not safe to fiddle with hembane and some of those things. And in a sense, psychedelics is more of, well, I don't even know if the word witchcraft is appropriate. I don't think it's some sort of Catholic term, but herbalism and plant spirit medicine. can be very dangerous. You know, datura is one of the great examples of a very toxic, potentially useful chemical that you really shouldn't fool around with. So it's, you know, I'm not telling people to experiment with plants they find in the woods, but it's very interesting, and to look at people who have, and to go at the psychedelic as it is it's a really a very powerful thing that's not entirely human, wasn't really designed for you. I mean, even, you know, they say the plant teacher, but I think the plant teacher's first, I mean, I don't know, it has plant obligations, not necessarily human ones. Anyway, again, I sort of, you know, fell off the deep end of where I was going. So
Actually,
up to you, Ryan. Take
you
it.
totally went a great direction. That was a lot of fun. And I just want to mention one practical thing that we should talk about at some point. I don't want to interrupt the flow. There's a question of, since I'm recording this, since I'm putting this online, what can we talk about? What is it not okay to talk about? Do I need to pause the recording at some point? So people are asking that in terms of what questions they ask. So we can address that. But yeah, go ahead with the flow of where we are, because this was great fun. I think Ryan's next.
Yeah. I just, on your points that you brought up there, Lincoln, thank you again for stirring the pot and bringing the chaos. It's great for the conversation and the mind. But you were talking about, and you ended on the witches thing, and I was going to jump in with my analogy here, but you also been talking about how what you choose to remember, and as a whole humanity, there is so much we don't choose to remember, and we're not remembering. But what levels the Salem witch trials and whatever, paganism, you know, those types of things, Druidism, these deeper ancient religions that were really in touch with plant medicine, and they were able to concoct numerous different recipes where they were involving different plant-based ingredients and coming up with brews that were intentional for certain things, and people then were using them not understanding the intention and having negative side effects and stuff like that. But our fear of those people caused us egotistically to demonize them and to lose that knowledge and to almost backstep irrevocably to a point where we are today. But I feel the thing that gets me motivated, I'm kind of like a perpetual optimist, is that we're at this really cool time where it seems like there is an awakening that is coinciding with what certain people as ourselves who are really diligent about trying to remember and reawakening that past. At the same time, there is this culture right now that is really intent on learning it, not necessarily just remembering it. So they're kind of coinciding together. There's the people that are remembering and understanding and able to look back and realize, oh, we were already doing this a long time ago. And then you have people here now that are just like, oh, it's cool, we should be doing this. And the monotony and chaos of different people and being at different places and different times and coming to that understanding together, I think is really interesting where we are today and how we're going to move forward, and whether or not we're going to move forward in a progressive way or if we're going to go back and repeat the same mistakes, because often we have seen through history that we have a tendency to repeat mistakes as opposed to learn from them and progress from them. So having these discussions with people like yourselves, I feel, is absolutely a gift, and it's a step in the right direction of progression, in my opinion. So thank you.
Great, thanks. I think Troy, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Lincoln, I just want to say, especially when you were talking, your comment of your teachers, especially back in your day, they weren't even taught, and they didn't know some of the things that you wanted to know. And I think that's a very good point. Still, there are a lot of things in different areas that teachers today still aren't cued in on and aren't teaching. And so maybe that's just the nature of teaching and sort of the dark or chaotic side of it that's always there. But that makes me think too of what I've been thinking of and learning about the Druids. And one thing is that they were known to actually not write down all of their secrets and their knowledge. And very little is actually known still of some specifics of their ceremonies and exactly what they did and things that they knew or how to do things. And I think they did that intentionally. I think that was part of the Druid way, for this element of um, everybody gets to learn on their own through experience, through trial and error. And you weren't taught by your successors everything, and you aren't taught their secrets, but you may still be able to learn their secrets by dabbling and by exploring. And I think generally that can apply to both plant medicine as well as metaphysics and quantum things and probably anything. But yeah, that got me thinking about just how valuable that kind of lack of teaching or teaching with a lack of teaching is, to allow the students and to allow your children to learn their own stuff, that may be sometimes the same or complementary to or even evolution of what you knew, without you actually directly teaching it to them.
You know, there's a movement toward what's called wild schooling, or democratic schooling, or outdoor schooling, or unschooling, which I think has some it's given in regard to children education. But I think psychedelics are a form of outdoor education for adults that could be approached the same way. I mean, when you engage in outdoor education, you're looking for detail and listening for sounds you don't hear and understanding relationships you hadn't seen before. And I want to keep the focus on psychedelics because people are interested and people are curious, and for the most part, they're still not legal, broadly. And I don't think they're legal recreationally anywhere. Well, I don't know what Oregon is doing. You never know about Oregon, but as a therapist, I'm not allowed to indulge in them or recommend them or provide them. And I don't think any other, outside of some research, very constrained and rather expensive research context. There are some exceptions. Ketamine is an exception, but it's, getting shooed in as an anesthetic given by doctors and anesthesiologists who have no psychological training or interest. And, it gets all confused. I still have to throw my weight in for the underground, which basically is every culture except ours. And those people don't operate in this Western context. I mean, I often think of shamans are not therapists. The shamans I know, if they even speak English, could not care less about your diagnosis or your treatment plan. That's not what they're there for. That's not their energetic connection. And they may not even consider it your primary problem. I would say that's pretty accurate. So, when people are interested in taking psychedelics for whatever reason, I think the two reasons are exploratory or healing. I guess they're you have to think of your path, think of your resources, think of your risks. People don't often talk about them, but they are. I mean, one of the leading psychedelic voices is an old friend of mine. And when we were doing psychedelics, she's written books and she appears on, the MAPS conferences as a speaker. When we took psychedelics, she was deeply injured and it took her a long time to recover. So that she had no lack of knowledge, but in this alternate realm, it brought up stuff that was very deep and difficult for her. I don't think she's ever talked about it publicly, but it's certainly relevant to a lot of people. So it's not clear that, simply by following someone's program, you'll be safe. It really depends on, well, preparation and who you are. All right. Go ahead, Rye.
Yeah, beautiful again. And in terms of how you were talking about how the mushrooms help deepen a conversation almost with yourself or with a energetic connection to the universe, however you deem to identify that communication, it really ties into the endocannabinoid system and something that I really enjoy talking about. So the endocannabinoid system is a system within our body, much like the cardiovascular respiratory system. It operates and functions and has its own individual purpose, and it communicates for all of the different functioning systems. So your cardiovascular system communicates to your respiratory system via the endocannabinoid system. It works like a communications network. So a lot of the benefits and the things that they're finding currently are related to how the body creates a homeostasis through this endocannabinoid system. When something's out of balance or there's discord within the human body and the human experience, the endocannabinoid system, when being properly fed with phytocannabinoids, can help balance that. They're finding great results with diabetes, with neuropathy, and helping realign like myelin and nerve plasticity, which ties into the mushrooms and that communication, that deepening. I feel that having this recipe of plant-based diet and going into a psychedelic situation, preparing yourself for that, like you're saying, being prepared and intentional with it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure that my diet is properly set up before I go into this so that my cells, like we were talking about earlier, how our body is a mini universe, each cell is prepared and ready to receive that energy and to communicate and understand what the energy is trying to relay to you in a teaching aspect sort of thing.
I just want to bring in a quick topic that we haven't really talked about, which I just realized is death, which is the best. And I say that like seriously, and also so that we're not afraid of it, which particularly in Western culture, we tend to not talk about death and or sex. Like there's a lot of hushed tones. And I feel like some dragons a while ago, I think it was the peace dragons actually, they came in and they said that we are here to like learn how to remember how to die, and that we are constantly being asked to die into more complex versions of ourselves. And so that is something that, and I see it a lot in ceremonies with people, and I can feel it when it comes into the room, like this idea of, I personally do not believe that we are here to slaughter our ego, right? But we can go through an ego dissolution a lot, or we can just call it an ego death. And I can feel it when it comes into this space. And it's a lot, like, because we have so many attachments to things, and not very many of us have an opportunity, and yeah, I'm using the word opportunity, to die and then come back. There's a lot of people out there that have had a lot of near-death experiences, and they've died and they came back. And that's a beautiful thing to talk about, but all of us don't get to do that. Now, I'm not saying that that is easy and it's not traumatic, but it is something worth exploring. And what does that look like, and how do you feel about death? And we can even go through death when we lose people around us. I mean, just even the idea of thinking that every single thing that we love more than anything is going to die. Like, we're gonna lose it, and end of story, right? At least in this perspective and this perception of this body, outside of the theoretical ideas of everything is infinite, we are infinite, like energy is not created or destroyed, et cetera, et cetera. Still, the human parts of us that love this thing or this person or this pet or this dog, like it's gonna be gone, right? And so, like, being in the present moment is easy sometimes. It's really hard. at other times. And so I feel um I say, when I say I love death, and just like to be clear, the beings have come in and been very clear, and I know this, right? The infinite alpha and omega, the death and the life frequencies, birth and death are like the same portal. So you have to be comfortable with both. I mean, you don't have to do anything, but I believe that it's important to be comfortable with both. And I've had like my galactic family consciousness came in. It was a long time ago. I remember them telling me, like, you do not need to worry about dying. Like, death is really easy for you. And I was like, oh, okay. But the flip side of that is life. And that's been something that I've been like needing to look at. Like, what parts of me subconsciously deep in my consciousness are like ready to pull, like, we're good. Maybe I don't want to live as much as I think I want to live, right? So I mean, we can look at a lot of these things, but mostly what I see, I also find the death consciousness to be one of the most beautiful energies, and I get to channel it a lot. And it's dark, but beautiful, right? I mean, just like birth, dark and beautiful. And I have not given birth to a child in this lifetime, but from what I gather and from all the sessions and things that I've done, it is not, it's hard, right? Like there is a death in that process of bringing a consciousness to join this consciousness in this life that we are experiencing. So I just encourage people to think about what they think about death and life, and how might the plants be really good teachers to teach you about this and this idea of letting go. I mean, because working with psychedelics can be a beautiful practice. That is all.
Thank you, Ashley. I wish I had more to say about the psychedelics. I'm actually not much of a psychedelic person, but yeah, I do want to comment on the death consciousness. That's like one of my very familiar and useful tools as a Scorpio with my walk-in. And yeah, I've not had officially a pronounced dead near-death experience, but I feel that there have been many challenges and things in this lifetime and since my walk-in that have caused parts of me to die, and at times I actually literally wanted to. But this body, this heart is still beating, and this body is still here. And the spirit has been resurrected, I think, a few times since my walk-in. So what was I going to say? Yeah, death consciousness is a beautiful thing. Oh, what I've been learning recently, actually got downloads for song lyrics I wrote yesterday about borrowed time. And that is an interesting lesson within the song, and also that I've been thinking about, that we're really all living on borrowed time. And that kind of is a different way of saying a lesson that I was taught also since my walk-in by my guides, of just asking myself what I would be, basically as a spirit, all I would be if all of my body and this physicality was stripped away, and what would actually remain of myself and my personality and what I have in this life. Yeah, but borrowed time is an interesting lesson to learn. Also learning to live as if it's your last day on earth, thinking about that, which to me also has taught me about the importance of looking at your own behaviors and looking at also your own resistances, the many things you resist, the callings and projects that you are constantly procrastinating and resisting, that then once you actually start doing them without hesitation, that is like rocket fuel to your life. So yeah, that's actually, I guess, one way of applying death energy to your life is once you experience feeling like you're dead or wanting to die, then you really are more able, I feel, to just do things that you never did before, and do things that you um, that are really good for you and that you never thought that you would do before. Go ahead, Rye.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I love everything about this. Our symbol is the phoenix mixed with the tree of life for my business. And it's all about resurrection and taking the wisdom of the past and moving forward with and leaving behind the trash, moving forward with what worked, leaving behind what didn't work, and being progressive. And I think that the death energy and that ideal in our society, death, I look more at it like change and transition and the infinite loop of coming to one side, going to the other side, and really harnessing that and keeping that momentum to really increase our vibration, increase our ability to do things moving forward. So that is part of why we chose this symbol to represent life, death, transition, change, and progression. And Galactic brought up death, and sometimes also Troy brought up the idea of wanting sometimes to die, and that being a difficult subject that people don't like to talk about. It's obvious in at least the Western culture, but I really these days sympathize with suicide. I see a lot of people and you can't step into their shoes, and I know that Troy brought it up. I've been there where life was just really difficult and I felt lost and in the void of chaos, and it was overwhelming, and I wasn't prepared with the lessons and the things I needed to be able to feel stronger in those moments. And I felt like that was something that was a possibility. Um, Lo and behold, my path took me to other experiences and lessons that have brought me lessons and skills that made me stronger. And I left behind some of the bad coping mechanisms and those things, and I was able to trudge forward. But with the plants, they do the same thing for us, like the mushrooms, in the essence of us using these plant medicines, whatever it may be, ayahuasca, mushrooms, uh, pepper, avocado, your diet. When we eat that and we consume it, it is passing on what it has learned, those different chemical compounds and different ways of protecting itself and regenerating itself onto our body so that we can then in turn pass off and do the same thing. And it all ends up being this interweaving flow of life and passing on and moving forward. So I don't think you can really talk about life in any general aspect without incorporating death. So I'm happy that you were able to bring that to discussion.
I have a few quotes I wrote down here. There's this sort of gets to the issue of dichotomy, and or duality. Well, I prefer to think that duality is a good thing, and it's dichotomy that's a bad thing. But we make distinctions of good and bad, and the problem and the solution, and the disease and the cure. Life and death is like the big dichotomy. But in a lot of people I work with, depression or anxiety, in contrast to what the opposite of those is, and if you think about it, it's not really clear what the opposite of those things is. And so I'm thinking of some of these quotes that seem pertinent. Here, I'm going to read it for them. The problem is the solution. Somebody said that. I can't find anybody, but I know somebody said that. And another is, within the problem lies the solution. And then you're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. Or when you find no solution to a problem, it's probably not a problem to be solved, but a truth to be accepted. And so I find myself working around those when I'm with somebody who's got depression or anxiety, and I'm saying, well, maybe that's not the problem. Maybe that's the path to resolving it. That, you know, depression is not a bad thing. I mean, you could say death is not a bad thing. That's kind of a hard pill to swallow, but certainly grief requires you to reconcile that. But so does depression and anxiety. Like, maybe you have a right to be depressed, or maybe depression and anxiety are appropriate given the way you're looking at things. So, you know, this is sort of I take a kind of supernatural approach. Like, if you think these are demonic, you know, the demon, the black dog of your depression, well, you know, maybe it actually is your companion, or needs to be accepted in its companion role. And what does it have to teach you? I mean, maybe it's not going to be your friend. I mean, demons, I think by definition, are not out to be friendly, but they have something to teach you. And my vision is that a demon really doesn't want to, he wants to unload its crap, and you take it and it be gone. And this denial of its message pisses demons off even more. So if you're depressed, it's like, what is the root of this? It's not something you want to eviscerate and evaporate and dissolve with some pill and some happy potion. You know, this is kind of shadow work, right? So if it's coming up as relevant, it probably is. You know, as this quote said, if it's, you can't find a solution, it's probably a truth. So I think people who are attracted to psychedelics often think that there's another side to things, and that they need to be shown it. And I would say, yeah, sure. But do you want to really see it? Are you really prepared to accept the responsibility of that knowledge? So, you know, if you're depressed or anxious or any of these other things people don't like, are you prepared to accept the knowledge of what its roots are? Because if you're just trying to get rid of it, you know, it's kind of the demon situation. You're just going to piss it off and just going to get all more riled up in your evasiveness and rationalization. And so, you know, you could say the same thing happens with death. Death is actually very easy because you don't have any choice. You know, it's like, there's the door and you're going to go through it. And there's no hard feelings here. You know, it's just, so that's all we could do to keep you alive this long. And now, you know, and you know, I think a lot of people who deal with death, who recover from terminal illnesses for a while, of course, life is terminal. You know, when they say it's the best thing that happened to me, they've come to peace with well, reality. So you kind of have to be prepared. You have to ask yourself, what are you prepared to accept as real? Psychedelics will show you all manner of things. I had a psychedelic experience that taught me the reality of suicide. You know, it was one of those super dark things where I was clearly presented with a situation where it would be better to be dead. And no, I mean, absolutely. You know, I could completely understand killing myself or someone wanting, if that was your reality. I mean, living in hell, who wants to do that? I mean, literal, no. So, you know, but it wore off, lucky me. And 10 minutes was enough. I mean, these are big questions. How much of this stuff do you need? How depressed do you need to get? And it's sort of like alcohol. How I have one client who said, I want the right to screw myself up. I want, you know, to go on a bender. I want to have the right to mess myself up. So I said, okay, you know, go for it. Have a nice time. And something in that sort of freed him from that, so that he did it a few times and said, this really, you know, okay, I have the right. I have the freedom. I have the autonomy to choose my life. And maybe I don't really want to choose that because it disrupts everything in my life. You know, so it's funny. The problem can really be the solution if you're ready to see some of the reality. Why did I say that? I don't remember. Something. Go ahead.
Thanks. It looks like Rai's got a response. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'd just like to raise my hand so I can jump in when you're ready. But yeah, I think I love everything you said, and I think there's a lot of misunderstanding with solutions. Like solutions are roads to a eventual answer. Like, you know, if there's a problem, like 1 + 2 = 5, that's a solution. It's not correct. It's not the answer, but it's an attempt at the answer. And continually, if you want to sit there and you just want to not figure out the answer and you want to sit with your solution that's not an answer, you're never going to get to the answer. So you just process through different solutions. And sometimes, you know, current culture has a different way of going about applying coping mechanisms and the emotional, energetic, spiritual approach to things that is very, very finite. It's left and right, it's black and white, and our bodies and our minds, and I don't think our soul operates in a black and white place. It's very vivid. There's lots of colors, sacred geometry, and things beautiful like that. So I really appreciate the approach and the idea of, you know, the freedom of that people can have. When you have that freedom, you can pick from the paint. You got all these different colors, and what colors are you? We're all unique, and this journey that we're taking, and we should be able to have support to try new solutions. Maybe my solution doesn't work for you. I went through my depression and I had a bout with, you know, addiction and alcoholism. You know, my coping mechanisms were brought up through my environment, and I held on to them aggressively. But when I let go and I stopped holding on to what I thought I knew and just let things happen and accepted that, you know, I got to try something different. What I'm doing now isn't working, and just started applying different things. And I'm still on that journey. There's no finish line until we do reach that point of death or change. And then we can, you know, whatever happens there, we can look back and find out. But while we're on this journey, it's just applying different solutions and applying different solutions and hoping that we get decent answers along the way.
I just want to piggyback on that, I think, briefly. I teach these 9-week, I call them divine immersion programs, and we're in the channeling course right now. And one of the things that always comes up is that there is no such thing as an answer. And so if you take that in, and anytime that you're sitting there and either you're trying to channel for yourself or you're trying to find answers, if you can let go that there is only one answer and that everything is guidance, then you can take that guidance in and then make a sovereign choice as to sort of which guidance, like what to follow. Because that's one of the things that I notice that comes up a lot with people that are wanting to channel or that are wanting to bring information through them, is that there is a belief that there is a right or wrong answer, that there is only one answer. And then it gets exponentially more difficult when the information that's coming through is challenging information, like not rainbows and kittens or whatever the phrase is. And so,
Unicorns.
yeah, it can be really difficult. But when we can sort of sit and ask with compassionate curiosity questions, and lots of questions, and allow the information to come through multiple times and look at it as guidance and try and get into a frequency where we really are being compassionate and truly curious, right? Because most of the time when we are asking questions about something that's difficult, we really want the answer to be this thing. We're afraid that it's going to be something else, and it's almost always the something else. But and I just find that that has been really helpful for me to think about. The beings talk about it a lot, and I think it offers a lot of freedom. It really does free things up, and that you have permission to ask the same question so many times. And I actually totally believe this. I really only believe in like one capital T truth, right? And that everything is like a spectrum. And the more that we grow and the more that we expand, everything is going to change anyway, because our beliefs are only temporary placeholders to kind of like keep us where we are so that we can go through that, like the Matryoshka dolls, and like get into these bigger spaces and these bigger spaces. And so when we're sort of exploring all of these ideas, I find that that's really helpful. And then I just want to circle back to the demon thing really quick, because this is something that I notice a lot in sessions. Is a lot of times what appears to be a demon looks like a demon, walks like a demon. Sometimes it's not really a demon. It's actually a demonized version of ourself that needs attention. And so you don't have to take it all in at once, but this scary thing that is staring at you might be something that has a lot of shame and a lot of stuff in it that you subconsciously just sliced off out of you because you can't deal with it. And sometimes when we do that, it kind of grows into this thing, but that it's really a part of us. So working with someone, a friend, this isn't the sales thing, but I'm just saying, like, having somebody to help you just not feel like you're crazy to sort of address this in baby steps and kind of start pulling it apart and looking at this demonized part of ourselves. And I think that we all have them, and some of them might be bigger and smaller, and it's not about a judgment. So yeah, that's all.
Yeah, that's all. Well, yeah, so let's I want to come back to what do we do with questions, because it sounds like there are some questions coming in where no, okay, someone has a question that they think they can word in a way that it's okay. Do you all have any recommendations about what people can, what you recommend people do, don't say here, or if there's anything I should pause the recording? Just panelists, do you have anything about that?
I'm open. I'm a transparent soul. I'm talk about whatever you want.
People maybe are concerned about for legal reasons, because we live in all kinds of different places, and yeah, just it's a question in the audience, so yeah. Okay, well, if we wander anywhere where you all think I should pause the recording, let me know. All right. Oh, and yeah, there's a comment. Galactic Ashley, did you see Daniel's comment? So daily life is like being in a hall of mirrors. Yeah, guess it is. We just think that we like have control and know what's going on. Right? The denial that we're actually in chaos all the time.
Sometimes, yeah, honestly, life is honestly or often a reflection of what we think and feel and our personal reality of how we create it. With the law of attraction, when you get into that, kind of our universe is set up to reflect what's within us and what we're sending out. I also have kind of a general question topic that we could get into, and that's certain kinds of plants and foods that people may eat repeatedly, especially when they're in a stressed or anxious emotional state, basically as a release or as a comfort food. Or, for example, some people eat super spicy peppers and foods for kind of a release when they're a little bit stressed, sometimes without even knowing it. Of course, sugar is a big one, that is a comfort food. Cream and dairy, that's just kind of a different type of food. But yeah, let's perhaps even focus on plants, though, that people can often use as comfort foods and comfort plants that may actually be good to talk about in the way that they're doing it as a way of suppressing something within them, an emotion or a trauma or something.
But we do have a question, so I kind of want to wander over to the question and just a few things to say before we go into questions. And it's been like forever since we've done this. So it is recorded, so please keep in mind, that it's recorded. And I think this is true all the time, and particularly when we're in public. When you ask a question, if we go deeper than you want us to go in our answer, or we talk about topics that you don't want us sharing about here, please let us know, interrupt us, and give us guidance if we wander off course and you want us to hear. This is a great opportunity for everyone to learn from all that's asked and all that's answered, whether or not you ask a question. And it's also a great opportunity to practice opening your intuition. Have no idea what the questions are going to be tonight, but I recommend you have something to scribble with and draw with, that you might have been doing that this whole time. And to see if something that's coming through you is related to the way that we answer. It's confirmation that we're all tapping into the same thing. Of course, you might have something relevant come through that we don't mention. All right, well, it sounds like you've got a question. Do you want to be brought up on the spotlight? All right, you do. Okay, here we go. All right, Anissa, what is your question?
Okay, so I'm going to be pretty vulnerable with this, but so I currently take antidepressants that have inhibited me to be able to experience certain experiences that I would like to have within the plant world using psilocybin or LSD, different drugs. I'll just be blunt, I guess. Oh well. And so I'm really looking into what can I do to have a heightened experience, or to go within, or to, is there a certain amount of a plant medicine that would help, or is there no plant medicine that would help at all because I am inhibited by the medications that I currently take? I just really would like a healing experience that so many of my friends talk about having and have experienced, and I feel that I would like to experience those as well in whatever way I can safely do it. And it doesn't seem like I know what a safe way is, or what's out there for people who are on certain antidepressants that inhibit things. Sorry, I kind of went around in a circle multiple times, but hopefully you understand what I'm asking.
And maybe I just add a little bit of context too, like you've played over the years with like what to be taking and having that work for you, and so like care of, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to do anything stupid. I want to try to be safe about it because I do want to maintain my current level of clarity that I'm having in the world as far as it goes with my antidepressants and anxiety meds that I'm on. I'm in a safe space right now, and so I would hate to do something to fluctuate that in a negative way, but I definitely would like to experience something positive.
Okay, great. And I'm saying I'm going to time us. So yeah, so just right, we go in order. So Troy's got his hand up, so I'm just going to let Troy go first. But then I'll time. So at 3 minutes, I'll give us a little extra time because we probably want to have lots of questions. At 3 minutes, I'll let you know so you can kind of close up your answer, and then we'll have a chance to come back to. So go ahead, Troy, and then Roy can be next.
So I just want to get a little more clarity on like what kind of experience you're seeking, if it's more in the psychedelic realm, or just resulting in feeling good in some way, feeling better.
I would like a psychedelic experience. I would like an otherworldly, or within this world, but through a new lens or a perspective that I haven't had before. To see myself and others and beings in ways I haven't seen before, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, just I don't have so much experience with the psychedelic or plant type realm in that way. But what I have had a lot of interesting and I think otherworldly experiences with is hypnosis, hypnotic states, sometimes going really deep and exploring and having very new experiences. Yeah, once you really start it and start the practice of it, it gets clearer and more profound, and yeah, there's pretty much no limits of what you can explore and do with hypnosis. That type of thing, really going within your own mind and psyche, but also using that as kind of a I call it a hub or a gateway, going within your own place, inner place, but that then can be a hub and a sort of stepping stone to then interact with other beings you can invite, or explore outside of it a little bit. And yeah, there's a lot you can do with that.
Thank you, Troy.
You're welcome, Anissa. That's what I would recommend.
I was wondering wondering if you would bring that up since you specialize in that.
Yeah. We can talk, of course, anytime, and yeah, we can get into that. Otherwise, yeah, I would definitely recommend trying hypnosis and yeah, guided deep experiences in that realm.
Okay, thank you.
Great, Ryan. I think you wanted to jump in.
Yeah. I mean, always happy to express my opinions. So my experience is going to be different than everyone's. We're all unique in that approach. So what I would suggest is I think that historically, shamanistically, druidically, there's a guided meditation to it, since you have what is your intention, and from what you've expressed, your intention is to help yourself heal and to work on, having a more positive approach moving forward through life and learning those lessons through, absorbing the information from this experience. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would suggest having that intention, preparing yourself. I'm big on food intake and making sure that before this you make it a positive intention. Like a couple days before, I'm gonna eat right, like for like a couple days, and I'm gonna put positive nutrition into my body before I go on this journey. And then to have it with somebody that is experienced and can hold a safe space for you and can help you feel comfortable as you go on this journey, so that you end up coming out and you go through it feeling comfortable and you have someone there for if you don't. That would be my experience. There are people that I know that are facilitators of this. They hold retreats, and they start with breath work, and they do different styles, whether it's a Native American version or a Druidic shamanistic version. There are plenty of people that are available, and I'm sure that this group of wisdom has a few people that you could tap into. You can easily find my information online. You can go to my website, which is the information's here. Reach out to me directly, and I'll put you in touch with some people. I live in Washington State, but I can put you in touch with some people that I know here that would be happy to help guide you through that experience.
Maybe I
you.
can say too, we could all just talk practically, and then Anissa, you can say what is the risk, or what is the lesser experience that you might have being on antidepressants? Might it interfere in the
Well,
functioning, or is it?
so I tried psilocybin before, and I don't know if I just didn't have an appropriate dose, but nothing happened. Everyone else around me was, from my eyes, experiencing really profound things and experiencing the world in a wonderful way. And I was just kind of their caretaker. And I mean, it was fine that I was their caretaker, but I wanted, I felt left out. And so, yeah, there's just, from the current meds I'm on, I've been told that, yeah, it's common to be inhibited, or it's common not to feel anything. And so it's like, do I just need to amp up the dose and be in a dose that is not similar to those around me, and that would break through, or is it just not going to break through at all?
Daniel brought up macro dosing over here also in the comments, and that is something that Mr. Paul Stamets would advocate in an experience where you would take like an exceptional amount at first, like 10 grams, and you would go all the way, and then you would back off, and then there'd be a time period of reserve. But that is a approach to it that you can take. Being that I am not a medical practitioner, I'm dancing around a lot of this, but this is something that I've taken mushrooms before and not had an effect, and I'm not on any depressants or anything like that. Sometimes it's just you get a bad situation, the mushrooms aren't going to be effective. That's kind of common, but I think that some of these other practitioners might be able to maybe facilitate more for you.
Okay.
Right, great.
I
And I know
wanna-
Galactic Ashley's hands up. Troy, did you have something else you wanted to share? Is it up from before, or?
Yeah, a couple of things. So what I would wonder is if when you're taking these substances, um, that maybe you already have such an expectation of the kind of experience that you are probably going to have, and often expectational anxiety can get in the way of things. Um, that can apply to simple things like academic tests, or also, of course, in hypnosis, when you're trying it for the first time or doing it for the first time, sometimes when you have an expectation of like what it's going to be like, or if it's going to be super profound or clear, sometimes it's not, and that just sets up that reality for you already. um, I know that my first past life regression when I was about 16 um, wasn't, I didn't really see much in my mind. It wasn't super clear, but I did definitely open up a connection record that I'd never really been familiar with before, but it was directly related to um, the family that I grew up with, and karma with them from that lifetime and stuff. So that was stuff I had to unravel, and took a long time to actually figure out. But yeah, expectational anxiety of an extraordinary experience, or what you've heard can be an extraordinary experience for others, may actually inhibit a psychedelic or conscious experience, and it may just turn out different than you expected. Also, with a psychedelic substance, okay, Lorelai, I know that when you have that type of expectation, or just with any substance, usually, different substances often show you more of yourself, kind of bring out a bit of your shadow too. And so sometimes that experience, the first experience, could be kind of an unexpected way of experiencing maybe something you're ignoring, or that you weren't fully aware of, that maybe could address perhaps your relationship or perception of other people. That would be um, my questioning of that, my estimation of that.
Great. Thanks, Troy. Okay, so we got Galactic Ashley and then Lincoln, and there's that question in the chat too about preparation. Go ahead.
I will go, and I'm gonna leave the medical things to Dr. Lincoln, because the one thing that I do know, I know that you specifically asked about psilocybin, but it's actually very dangerous to work with ayahuasca if you are taking like SSRIs or something like that. I think there's something called um, serotonin syndrome, which is really dangerous and you can essentially die. So, and the first thing that came through when I was tuning in was the word flow, like really big letters. And I was trying to ask if I was projecting, because when you were speaking, I was hearing maybe I would like to go off of my antidepressants, like in a way like that could be potentially a permanent situation, which clearly you wouldn't do unless you were working with a medical doctor to taper it down, so that you could actually slowly integrate some of the psilocybin that does have potential to help heal depression. And so approaching it like that might be beneficial for you. A lot of times, and this is my experience, is I stopped taking ADHD medication about a month before I sat with ayahuasca. And I thought, like, oh, when I'm done, I'll just start it again and then sort of go off and on. And then I realized I'm just going to stay off of it because I want to walk this path and I'm very, very dedicated to it. So I'm not saying that that needs to be you, but there is this energy exchange with the beings and with the plants. And this is a spiritual perspective, right? Because ultimately, what are the plants, and it can be complicated. So I might reassess and sit with, are you looking for an experience because maybe there's something that has to do with belonging, or because it's fun, or because your friends are doing it, or is there something more interesting that is being offered to you, and then through those experiences might you be able to help others through the gift of your own experience in a way that includes maybe working with psilocybin and somebody that is like a psychotherapist or psychiatrist or something that is also willing to talk about psilocybin and to talk about these two things, so that you have a plan and you can marry them, so that you do so safely, where you end up having these experiences that give you these whole new perspective of what is going on, while also maintaining your own ability to be the amazing worker that you are with your angels and the angelic realm and all these other energies, because they aren't really separate. I mean, they have very distinct energies, but they also work together. And so I might sit with that and look at that, but the first message that came through was, it wasn't like proceed with caution, like in a like yield. It was like slow and beautiful, and look around, and rather than seeing this like something that's not a benefit, see it as a benefit, because there's a lot of people that are out there that are just like you, that are in the same boat. And how might you go through this? Okay.
It's funny that you mentioned changing up meds and maybe tapering off meds, is because I've seen a new doctor, and that's something that we might approach in the new year, just to see where I am with things. So I'm like optimistic and nervous about that conversation when it occurs at the same time. But yeah, so that's funny that you brought that up. Or not funny, but intriguing.
I want to say too, your energy is like really interesting. Your energy feels like the most light and bright that you've been in many years.
Yeah.
So you're in a really good place. Yeah, you seem. All right, we've got Lincoln, and then we've got more from Troy and more from Rye. Go ahead, Lincoln. Oh, Lincoln, you're muted. Sorry. It was a dog snoring, and I didn't know where it was coming from. So either a cat or a
Was
dog, but
annoying.
it was, yeah. There you go. No, it was Galactic
So
Ashley's dog.
I'm thinking that so I don't know you, I don't know your history and all sorts of other things, obviously. And I'm just putting this out. Maybe you don't want to hear this, but whatever. It's not negative. It's just that there's kind of a two-sided thing going here. I want to have a psychedelic experience, and I don't want to have anxiety and depression. And I'd like to have both. It's like I'd like to be free of anxiety and depression, and I'd like to have a psychedelic experience. Okay, I mean, I understand that request, but in the framework that, the problem is the solution, maybe the anxiety and the depression are necessary for understanding, for greater understanding. And if the psychedelic is going to be a healing thing, or a epiphany, or a journey to a higher level of knowledge, it would seem to me that you have to bring your baggage, which is sort of like, maybe, you can't ask the angels to heal you if you're going to carry all your solutions with you. It's kind of like you have to get naked to the reality, and then you might have the revelation of what it all means. So, there's this chemical idea that, you shouldn't mix these chemicals because they're dangerous and you can't predict what they're going to do, and all that's true to some degree. But then there's also the idea that, well, maybe, the medicinal approach or the pharmaceutical psychotherapeutic approach, that your anxiety and your depression are the negative things that have to be sliced out of you for you to be normal, are not really compatible with the idea that the psychedelic is going to meld or integrate or reveal to you some truth, which you're not going to see if you're not in touch with your own anxiety and depression. So I'm not saying you should get off the antidepressants or anxiety meds, but that what the psychedelics could do for you might be more clear if you were more in touch with the things that bother you. So where you want to put that nugget of verbiage. I don't know. But it may be that the calling is like, don't ignore your depression. It's not a bad thing. And when you deal with people in psychotherapy, their depressions are often related to their solution. Anyway, let's say I don't know you and I don't know the history, but it's something to think about. And I think you'd be better off making that decision than a doctor in terms of your own desire. I mean, they'll know some chemical thing and they'll know some therapeutic modality, but you'd have to decide, how much of this do you want to, how much of the dragon do you really want to ride? Anyway, so whatever, for what it's worth. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Lincoln.
Lincoln. Great. We've got Troy and then Rye.
Okay, Nissa. A couple of things. While people were talking, I got some things that might help. I kind of got a hit or a sense that what may be able to help is you need to start a practice. It needs to be daily. And you'll probably need to do it for a long time. It'll be integrative. And this will be to help you gradually reset your brain and emotional processing. But the practice in nature, I feel, will have to be meditating while holding or sitting with plants or plant parts, but specifically types of plants like flowers and roses and happy plants that make you happy and also just have happy energy. Meditating with them to sit with and feel and experience their energy in that way, their spirit. And there are also some specific herbs that may help that I feel will help your brain, while the flowers would be more for your heart to meditate with those. You need to also combine it with herbs to support your brain along with it. Regrow the brain heart highway, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I got. Hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
Thanks,
just a
Rye.
little,
Yeah, Rye.
just a tidbit. So intention, I see you have a dual intention just from what I'm gathering. Like, yeah, I want to work on my health aspect. I also want to have fun. I'm sitting here seeing my friends having a great time. I'm trying to party. I get that. That's super common. That's why we all did this stuff when we were kids. So you're human, part of the experience, embrace it. But the, prioritizing things, don't put the party before the healthcare would be my opinion. So like you can have that, but what's the intention? How are we going to do this? And then looking at dosing, like you can do the macro thing, or how are you going to work your way in, like Ashley was talking about, slowly and embracing and seeing it for its different types of journey, because different levels of involvement with psilocybins and different types of experiences with these psychedelic approaches can give you different perspectives of what's going on around you and whatnot. You can have with mushrooms, you can have a nice little body high. You can just get there and get the giggles and, laugh yourself away and whatnot. Or you can go all the way and you can, have a real visual experience. Those are all options for you. Again, I would, having someone there that's going to help, guide you on the journey is just always been my best approach with things. And it's just a safe space so that, you can feel more comfortable, because in the back of your mind, your subconscious is going to be like, what if things go wrong? And there's things that are going to happen in there, those demons and whatnot. And to Lincoln's point, possibly maybe if you're going to go in with the intention, a couple days ahead, up to you, but opening up the prescription is like putting those anxiety and depression into a closet, right? And when you go into this situation with these plants, they're going to want you to like analyze this, but you can't analyze it if it's in the closet. So there might be something that you want to take and give yourself some time to pull some of that stuff out of the closet, however you see that happening, before you go into this with somebody to help guide you through it safely, so that you can look at this like, okay, you know, for me personally, I was molested and raped when I was a young kid, right? So I grew up with horrible coping mechanisms. And when I went into these situations, I was not guided. I didn't have it. I was like, and it was just like, I wasn't ready for it. So going into it with clear intention and setting yourself up slowly and in a thoughtful way, so that it is that experience you want, because you are powerful and you can create that for yourself. You just have to be intentional with it. So I hope you the best on your journey. And I really, if there's anything I can do, again, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And oh, Galactic Ashley's got some more. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it short. I feel like if this aligned with you, that this can be really beneficial. Sometimes, and again, this goes back to like the pacing for you, it just seems slow. And I think that there's a really big reason behind all of this, which I'm not going to get into. Is that what if, because we're coming across this beautiful timing, right? Solstice is in a couple of days. It might be a really good opportunity to invite in the frequency of psilocybin and to ask for help from your guides to release what needs to be released, what is creating interference between you developing a relationship with the psilocybin, which ultimately can bring you back to a deeper relationship with yourself. And then maybe what happens is you sit with the psilocybin and you hold it. These are my dogs that are snoring, by the way. And that you just hold it in your hand, like you have it in a jar, and you just connect with it for a while, for however long. And you might find that you actually, Anissa's higher self, already has a plan in place for you. But when you put the intention out there and trust the divine timing in it, and that it might take longer than your friends because of a lot of things that might be there that might, not that they, so that it's manageable for you. And then I definitely recommend having a facilitator with you that helps to hold space. I think would be really beautiful. For me personally, and I think that what happens is we set these intentions, we are opening the portal or the stargate to this plant medicine experience. So when you make a commitment to do that, it starts coming in before it's even touched your mouth or like entered your body. And that's what I have found is like really a beautiful thing about this. And I did this, but not really knowing, but for a year and a half, I made energy water out of the components of ayahuasca. So like the chacruna and the vine. And I drank it and sat with it and worked for it for like a year and a half because people kept coming to me and asking me about it. But at the time, I didn't think I wanted to necessarily sit with it. And then when I look back, I'm like, oh, this was this whole process that I was being brought through, because then when I sat with it, then I just kept sitting with it. And we were on like the fast train sort of in a lot of ways. And so really trusting yourself, and that it's a really beautiful process of self-discovery, and it can start and look very different.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Anissa, for your question.
Yeah, thanks for letting me be super vulnerable.
You got it. And I appreciate too, Galactic Ashley, in that answer. You also spoke to something that I was wondering about for people that might feel really nervous, like stepping into the chaos. What are some ways that they can take small steps? Like, so that's an example. Yeah, what you're just sharing. Yeah, it's great. And I know there was something else in here that had me wondering about a question. Oh yeah, support. So gosh, there's so much different kinds of support. So people can get support over weeks before they journey. Like, so how do people, like, what kinds of support is out there, and how do people choose like what kind of support to engage? And you talked about, Rai, like examples of like where we know we have some big stuff that might come up. So then we might want, enough support at the time, and maybe enough support preparing for that, or, what support we want, like letting the people around us know what support we want if things do come up. But yeah, so if you all could speak to that, so that would be great.
Oh yeah, and I was gonna add even afterwards, kind of like dreams, you're gonna go into this state and just like analyzing your dreams afterwards, you want to be able to before prepare, pull that stuff out of the closet that you want to like focus on and you want to, intentionally work on when you're in the present state of it. And then post, you want to be able to go back and be like, what did I learn? Did I, and through that whole process, it's like we said previously, it's a whole journey, this life we're on. And, being able to have assistance, that's the beauty of having people around you. Perspective is a beautiful gift, and having people to help guide you through the journeys in all aspects is always beneficial, as long as the intention is correct.
Right, I'd say I know Troy's got his hand up. Yeah, Lincoln, I know you want to say something. Go ahead, Troy, and then Lincoln.
Okay. Yeah, I have a question. So of course I've been trained in a lot of different hypnotherapy things, ways of doing it, and things to do with it. And I've gone on many journeys, some to accomplish things, some just exploring. Anyway, um, I have definitely encountered unexpected things in my inner world, and worked on and alchemized a lot of things I wasn't even aware of before, but shadow aspects basically, and improved things. And seems like there's always more to do, but I feel like I'm getting actually a lot lighter and stronger after so much work. But so I've done that, and I've done work with my dreams, and so I've seen kind of all these things and stuff, and figured out these connections of things I've been through, and how they connect with my behaviors, and also my perceptions of people and things in the world, and how that also shapes the life and um, career and success stuff that or not, that I'm either creating or blocking for myself. Um, it's it does kind of get complicated, but my question is, how and is ayahuasca really um, more powerful, or is it just a different version of doing that kind of inner work, or how does it really differ in its results from doing psychotherapy or hypnosis stuff to sort out and alchemize stuff within your subconscious versus just doing it intentionally with the plant to achieve what I think of as probably a similar result. So, yeah, I'm just wondering how they really differ, and if ayahuasca is completely different or if it's kind of a similar process and effect.
Hey,
Um,
thanks. Yeah, and I just
am
want
I,
to say, yeah, so Lincoln and then Galactic Ashley, you got your hand up faster, but Troy had his hand up like a video. So yeah, go ahead, Lincoln, Galactic Ashley, and then I think Ray's got more. Go ahead.
well, uh, sort of two answers in the same breath. Um, Ayahuasca does seem different from others in that it can alternately give you a sense of presence as a watcher in your normal ego state, or cast you into an environment that's not familiar or physical, but still you're usually present and aware and have the ability to remember. And in mushrooms it's a different thing, and mescaline it's like, and it also depends on the vibe and the energy of the situation. Ayahuasca tending to be a group thing, and so there are definitely differences, and it's physiologically more difficult. And I think there's a kind of there's a threshold, either you don't make it or you do make it, and I'm not sure you can easily overdose. I do not think you can overdose on ayahuasca, It's not, it's like, it's a threshold. It's a mesa. You reach the top and you explore. Unlike mushrooms, which seem to have more gradual um, spectrum of experiences. I mean, that's just my experience. I also wanted to mention, though, the idea of expectations. It's been my experience that if you're clear with your expectations, then you can be certain they won't be met. Because expectations by their nature are what you want to see, and being open to novelty and being insistent on some vision are different. So yes, it's like when before you go to sleep, and this is sort of what dream work is for me, you make expectations of what you want to explore and see and problems you want to maybe resolve or encounter, and you can be sure that your dreams will not answer any of that stuff, but they will throw you into experiences that it's up to you to figure out how they connect to your intentions. So I do think in psychedelics and in dream work and in meditation and in psychotherapy, intentions are really important, but they're not important because you expect them to be satisfied. They're important because you're committing to being open to the experience. That's what the expectation is. For you to be disappointed with the answer is kind of missing the boat. You know, I want the answer to my relationship problems. Well, you're going to get a strange answer because you spent your life trying to figure it out and it hasn't really worked out. So by its nature, it's going to be unusual. So expectations are important, but I think of them as commitment. I'm committed to experiencing something out of the normal. You can't say, no, 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 I didn't want to see that. I wanted to see this. That's like the angels don't respond to that. If they just say, you're not ready for this dialogue, and then they don't appear. So it's a kind of counterintuitive thing. Yes, you have to have expectations, but it's an expectation to commit. So again, like I think dream work is a great preparation for psychedelic work. And it's actually harder because you have to do the pedaling. There's no drug to, launch you like a rocket. You have to wake up, you have to remember, you have to be open. And as I mentioned before, a certain degree of lucidity can be available to you, but it's not destructive lucidity, it's engaging lucidity. You're not trying to boss the characters around in your dream. You're trying to ask them to communicate to you. And it's very interesting what happens when you start communicating with the characters in your dream. Very interesting. Hard to have any expectation about what the result is, but I'll leave it there.
I want to jump in. One thing you reminded me of, Anissa, a message for you was in your story, all your friends were experiencing things and you were taking care of everyone else. You ended up taking care of everyone else. It may be that your body, your system knew you didn't have enough support of someone else there. And so you wouldn't let go. So I think it's important for all of us too that we create whatever context we need so that we can let go to the experience. Hey, Galactic Ashley.
Yes, that was very good, Lorelei. Because our bodies ultimately know what we need, and you don't have to believe this, but I've developed and have a really huge trust in the spirit of ayahuasca or the spirits of a lot of these energies. And that takes time, but ultimately trusting that your body knows exactly what it can handle. And so I feel like I lost what the question was, but what I'm going to talk about is creating safety. And so this might look like, because when we tend to have these experiences, we become very, very open. So that might look like having a lot of solitude after. That might look like if you are working on something about abusive relationships and you live with somebody that is abusive, maybe getting an Airbnb and not going home right away, so that you can actually anchor in some of this information, some of these messages that have come up during your session. If you are working with a therapist, make sure that you have a therapy session scheduled within, I don't know, 72 hours of having one of these experiences. And doing the preparation before is really beneficial, and that might look very different for a lot of people. And I would actually expect that at least the week or two before, all of your stuff, whatever it is going to come up. And so it's a really beautiful time to pay attention without judgment to what is coming up, because that might be kind of a hint at what you might be looking at in the following ceremonies. And so really being open to what the universe is starting to communicate with you before you even go into the ceremony. There's a term that I love, it's called radical reverence. And it's this idea of being reverent, but also with some discipline and having preparation. Because when you show up with like love, honor, and respect, not for this thing that you are throwing your sovereignty over, but like really for yourself. Because all of the dieta and all of the things and all of the guidance that you're being asked to do, it's sure there's this energy that is there to really help you connect with your higher self, but it's you showing up for yourself. And there's so much self-love that comes with that. And then you get to start feeling and being in community, because I mean, at least with ayahuasca, it's very much a community experience, although there is a practice where you can do it by yourself. And I have experienced all of that. And it's all very lovely. And so much of it comes from what we do before and what we do after. And I have also realized, and I think this is important because integration has become a very like poppy, fatty term. I feel that integration is an organic, natural process of who and what we are, and it will look very different for different people. And if we step back and rather than trying to like make it a mental thing, sometimes what we're guided to do is hugely integrative. And one of the things that I was like, I remember I was sitting outside, it was like in the summer, and I'm like, oh, I'm not integrating. And the beings like stopped me and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm in my backyard, like naked, laying out in the sun. And they're like, and how long did it take you to be able to feel safe enough to be at your own house, to be in your own yard, to lay outside in the sun without clothes on? And I was like, oh. And that was like a huge process. So for me, that was integrative. So what integration looks like, if we allow it to be organic, it's already there if our intention is for it to happen, and so that we can witness ourselves and just trust who and what we are, and that we are co-creating with these plants, and really discovering the divine essence, or remembering it really, of who and what we are.
Well, sort of like we sleep, we dream, we go through whatever integration we go through of that we dream, and some of us might consciously choose to write in a dream journal. So it's, what do we choose the integration to look like? You know, as much as we can choose.
Yeah, somebody mentioned earlier, and I totally believe this, every night we die and then we wake up and we're reborn. And so I have a little mantra thing, like, because I think of it like I'm going into an altered state of consciousness, which is the same as me going to channel or doing any sort of energy work. So I have a clear opening and a closing, like for night before I go to sleep, and then morning for when I wake up. And sometimes I'm asking for healing, sometimes I'm asking for whatever. And I also encourage people that are really into dream spaces. There are community dream circles that are out there, and I've participated in them, and they're really wonderful. You get to dream on behalf of other people, and it really shows you like how in tune that you can be and how intuitive you already are. And it's a really fantastic thing to get connected with.
Great. Well, we've only got like 15-ish minutes left. If there's someone in the audience that has a question, we could answer one more question, or it's fine to just have a bit more conversation as we close things up here. And I'll put the information in the chat if anyone has just received benefit from being here today and you want to donate something, we're happy to receive that from you too. And also I'll put in information if you want to be included in a drawing for a free 30-minute session with one of us of your choice. So look for all that in the chat. And if there are any more general questions from anyone that's here, please feel free, write those in the chat too. We'd love to be able to address those. Yeah, and practitioners, clearly if anything's coming up, feel free to jump in.
Well, this has been really fun. I really enjoyed the experience and just sharing perspective and wisdom with everyone here and being able to help at least Anissa, I hope I said that right,
Anissa,
with
yeah.
with finding guidance in her own journey forward. It's a gift to be part of this experience with people around us. So thank you for letting me be on this journey, Laureli. It's a great platform you've created here. As far as my spiel goes, I really think that all of this is integrated. The motto we run by is, we rise up better together. And I think that comes a lot for me from the plant medicine and the synergy that comes from that. We were talking about numerous different types of approaches to psychedelic involvement quite often throughout this conversation, but Troy was talking about lion's mane. He also touched on dietary means of dealing with depression and how comfort food. I mean, these are all things we know. We call it comfort food. So we understand anecdotally that this it makes you feel comfortable. Why is that? Is it just because it fills your belly and, a good potato soup makes you think of grandma or whatnot? These different things, we all are unique and we all have different types of things that elicit responses and memories, and we remember some of it. We don't even know why. It's like, I don't know why I like tamales. Who knows what life led me to that personal comfort feeling that has that. But it's really fun to be able to dive into these conversations and get into the chaos and remember more with people. So just like to say thank you.
Great, thanks. I just put your info in the chat again too. Yeah, and you'll have a chance to share a little bit more about who you are at the end. Maybe this is a good opportunity too. I can just go ahead and read the fine print. So it's in here. I put it in the chat earlier. I'll just throw it in the chat again too. By participating in this event or watching this video later, the attendee understands that most of us are not therapists or medical doctors and are not giving therapeutic or medical advice. The attendee, viewer, further agrees that information gained from this event is for educational purposes only. Please seek allopathic medical attention or mental health support if needed. The attendee indemnifies me, Fairs, and the practitioners on the panel for any results related to any of the application of these educational materials. Thank you so much. All right, back onto the topic.
Yeah, we want to talk about the topic. Troy brought it up earlier with the whole foods and diet. Super important. I think it's well known that our typical Western diet is lacking in nutrition and benefits. And again, correlating with, Ashley's comment earlier that we're a microcosm, where there's microcosms of microcosms of and it just infinitely goes down. So you have the plant, but something also, the soil. Like the soil nourishes the plant nourishes the animal then goes back and nourishes the soil, and there's this type of cyclical structure within that. And then outside of that is things that we still don't know or still haven't remembered or conceived beyond that basic understanding in our current present. So being open to identifying things as we move forward and not thinking you have the answers, just being able to be guided through this as we go forward and not being stagnant. Holding on to things, I think, is something that you can hold on to moving forward, and it, quite possibly could brighten up your future and lead you on to adventurous life opportunities.
I guess with all the different options too that are out there, how do people choose what kind of adventure they want to go on?
I want
That
to
is,
address that.
go ahead, Lincoln.
I think you have to trust people who are experienced and question people who are experts, because experience trumps expertise. Regarding what experience you might take or what opportunity you might avail yourself of, it's sort of consumer beware. You should educate yourself in various degrees what is being offered, who is offering it, what experience do they have, not just what experience might you need, and who else is going to be there, and what other people tell you about it. So for example, I went to a St.A.A.R.R experience, which is a Brazilian church that's very sort of Catholic and very, very unusual in terms of a psychedelic journey. And I found it so, I would say, abhorrent. It just pushed every negative button in my body, because it has you, while you're completely in an altered state, it has you get up and dance in regimented rows and, repeat Psalms from, their Bible, and the lights are bright, and it's, you could have heard from many people that it was a positive experience, but for me, it was a very negative one. And so you have to know for yourself, just for some other people saying, oh, I had a great time, you should do it too. It's a serious engagement. You should know what your intentions are, but you should also know what the intentions of other people are. And if you don't understand it, it's, I would say, I would not recommend doing things you don't understand. Given that you may not understand a lot, but still, to use your intuition, it comes back to that. It should be very intuitive. If you have a questionable feeling, then find something you don't have a questionable feeling about. And that's what I say, experience trumps expertise. Just because somebody's, and the prices of some of these things are outrageous. The official ones, multi-thousands of dollars. The underground is a lot cheaper, though it can still be very expensive, but what's the value? Yeah, so do your homework. That's how you choose.
Thank you. Wait, Tori's got
Definitely,
something.
yeah, definitely, Lorelei. I would answer your question by saying that, like Lincoln said, it's intuitive, and you choose your journey, choose your adventure based on what you're really feeling, what you feel ready to do, and have a calling to do. Um, the calling is kind of the way that spirit talks to us, or requests us to do things, partly based on our soul agreements. But yeah, basically it's about feeling. I didn't expect this, but I'm starting to learn guitar, how to play a guitar, um, and writing song lyrics. I think I'll be singing and making my own songs for my novel trilogy, see where that goes. But it's a fun journey so far. But yeah, it's about feeling. You have to really feel the calling, and it's nobody else's. It can only be yours.
Yeah, I hear follow your gut and everything he's saying, that intuition, and but also what Lincoln was saying. I mean, also, collaboratively using your whole experience, not just your gut, but and your intuition, but also, combining some intellect. Like, is this a safe space? Does this, look into what you're doing? Don't just be like, yeah, I'm gonna go to this den down the road that's in a dark alley, and you know that it has a bad vibe, but you're not using your full capabilities to enhance the results in the end. So definitely part of it's following your gut. It's having balance with yourself, knowing yourself, and tapping into all of those things in a very nurturing way for what you want in the end. I made a lot of mistakes earlier on in my life with that, not necessarily listening and following quite a bit. The following got me into a lot of trouble. But when I stepped out on my own and I started listening and balancing my experience and what I had all together, I started forging my own path forward, and it provided me much better results in the long run for me and my personal experience.
When I was in graduate school, I remember talking with one of my thesis chair, and it was like, I don't know, the first month that I was there, and I was having the approach, I want to make images or make photographs for whatever it was. And her advice was to be very clear about what my intention was, who my audience is, and to have my concept not nailed down, but to know conceptually where I was going. And then from that concept, then I can dress the concept with the medium or media. So does it need to be a photograph? Maybe it should be a video. Maybe it should be an installation. That way, when we're making these choices, we know what we're building it around. And so I think that pretty much applies to life. And if we're looking for any of these like choose your own adventures, maybe we need to kind of, this goes to intention, but what do I need and what do we need? And if you're someone that's like, I don't know how to ask for my needs, then you start kind of following all of these little paths that start to sort of inform, and then you start to invite in all of these things that start showing up in your life that become these signposts that kind of direct you to where you might need to go, or to with a community or a group or whatever adventure is really calling you, that you're also calling, because I believe that we are both the call and the response. So we're the clarion call and the response. So we're always calling out and responding to ourselves. And I think that that's just a beautiful thing, and we can let go of making mistakes, because every experience we have is the exact experience we need, because it is always preparing us for every moment that we find ourselves in.
Great, great. All right, well, maybe let's go ahead and let's close up. So let's go around again, and each of you share who you are and what you do and how people can reach out to you. And if there's a special that you want to share, and I'll put your information in the chat again. We could go in the same order again. Galactic Ashley, if you don't mind jumping in to go first. And
Sure. I'm Galactic Ashley, and I channel divine guidance for Starseeds. Anybody else? I work with light language, and I work with your cosmic connections and help you connect to altered states of consciousness within yourself. I have 9-week programs that I now call the Divine Immersion programs. I'm also an artist, and I love working with people that are expanding and growing, and that are working with particularly ayahuasca, and also anything else. And I have a community and that I am creating that is very, very open-minded and open-hearted. And I have a special that I am starting, and it's just an hour for $100, and it's a psychic session. So it's not something that I actually normally do. More of my things are very, very intense, so I'm guided to lighten it up a little. So if you are interested in a psychic session at any point in time, reach out or go ahead and check out my website. And I'm super happy to be here with all this lovely masculine energy tonight. And Dove Light, wherever you are, we're thinking about you.
yeah, thanks so much. All right. Next we've got Rye.
I'm Rybo. I'm with Rise CBD. My shtick is I have a CBD topical company. That's what I do, and it's the first steps in where I'm going with my approach to the future, because the FDA regulations are totally comfortable with CBD topicals, and in the future we'll be doing CBD and cannabinoid based edibles and things that you can consume, but we're going to wait until the FDA gives a green light on that. My depth of what we're trying to accomplish with this company and brand, our mission statement is elevate with education, alleviate with application, and strengthen with community. We want to help you understand the cannabinoid system, the depth of it. It's not just about CBD and THC and inebriation and pain. It's much more deep than that and can help you live a much higher quality of life if you understand the application and how it works. We also want to provide you with quality products. That's the alleviate with application part. We use time-tested, Mother Nature approved ingredients that are all non-GMO certified. We also want to strengthen with community. That's the foundation of everything we do. Bringing in people that are open-minded and supportive. Like I've been saying throughout this entire time, the synergy of the plant medicine is a metaphor for us as a society. We have the microcosm that can, teach the macrocosm how to operate more functionally. And if we were able to create a brand that elicits the people in our community to accept each other's benefits for what they can do, we can all work better and rise up better together. So feel free to contact us. Conversation, if you're just feeling down, we are here for you as a community, but also as a brand and a product. Thank you.
That's great. And I just want to say, just so they were both on here, that was galacticashley.com, and then it is risecbd.com. All right, great. Troy.
Hello, everyone. And of course, thank you for viewing and participating. My name is Troy J. Bacon. And at New Being Hypnosis, I offer hypnotherapy and Reiki. What I do is, I think, very integrative, a lot with the energy world, though. My approach is addressing the soul, the emotions, the mind, and the energy body primarily, but then that all always translates to the physical body. The physical body is listening to all of that. It's all a system, and none of it's really very separate from the other parts. They're all connected. So that's my philosophy. One of my my specials I'm offering right now, especially going into early 2024, is I'm offering 24 past life regression sessions, each at 50% off for anybody who is here tonight and reaches out to me and then talks about tonight. And yeah, this December 19th, May We Fair. Anyway, that's my special. What I've been guided to focus more on lately is past life regression. And that, of course, can lead into almost everything. But as a starting point, primarily past life regression and tinnitus therapy is what I offer. Those are like my two specialties. And so if anybody's interested in past life regression sessions and exploring past lives, even future lives, parallel lives, that's what I'm experiencing a lot more of now. Let's get into that and explore, yeah, all of yourselves and wherever else you've incarnated, your soul is branched out to. So my website is newbeinghypnosis.com. And the Reiki I do can be for almost anything. It's usually by distance, but I could do in-person sessions in the Seattle area by arrangement. Anyway, it also addresses the mind, body, spirit. The hypnosis is more like a guided process. The Reiki involves more of me channeling and sending the energy, also channeling information that I get about the person. A lot of it's very psychic and involved, and really going through the whole energy body, at least 16 chakras that I understand, and clearing out blockages, attachments, residues, patterns, and the whole thing. I have kind of a program that I'm starting. I call it Soul Purpose Awakening Activation Program, but it's basically a process of Reiki sessions, some hypnosis involved, but the result is inner child healing, and then inner child evolution to inner self healing and evolution. Kind of initiation to all of who you are, and yeah, then eventually becoming all of your soul's purpose, learning about what that is and implementing it.
Great. Thanks, Troy. And that's newbeinghypnosis.com. And Lincoln.
Um, it's a lot of fun being with a lot of other people who are integrative, and I think that's one of the themes here. But also, I want to differentiate myself a little bit because I do that, and so integrating is also differentiating and disintegrating. So I work as a psychotherapist and a coach and a healer of various kinds. And I usually find that when people talk about integrating or integrating their life or their personality or their problems, it's very specific. They're not talking about everything. They're not talking about their, Alpha Centauri past life being. They're talking about their something very specific. Well, they might be, but whatever it is. And so when we say integrating, when I say integrating, it's up to you to decide what integrating is. I think it's very important, and I wish people would commit more to their own integration. We live in such a disintegrated environment that encourages us to remain disintegrated and remain kind of, strapped to the cross of capitalist geopolitics. And it really is up to you to decide what is important in your world. You can work almost any way you want, with dreams, with visions, with hopes, with your past, with your future, with past lives, future lives, or your death. And I wish people would spend more time. I mean, it's hard to encourage because, I charge for my time, and I look at how much people are paying over the months, and it seems like a lot. But I guess they think it's worthwhile, and I think it's worthwhile. It's very hard to judge, your life gets better. You don't know who's to be credited. And I try not to take credit. So then I always wonder whether I deserve anything. But, that's part of my job, is to be a presence that is sort of catalyzing, but I don't take anything away, and I don't want your pound of flesh. That's why I get paid. It's like I take your pound of money, but not your pound of flesh. So money is dispensable, and hopefully you can afford it. And this is what I say. I wish people would see the value in their growth beyond material things like, security and lawnmowers and RVs. So Mind, Strength, Balance is my website. I've got a blog. I've got books. You can have a free session that's short and introductory, not therapeutic, because that's like committing. I don't expect that immediately. But get in touch if you find it interesting. And I appreciate everyone here, and I'm grateful to your input. And I encourage the listeners to keep pedaling, and we're available to help in any way. That's kind of our thing. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you so much, Lincoln. And we here at MeWe Fairs have more happening. Let's see, we've got coming up this Friday, we have our free online fair. We'll have about 18 practitioners on that, some of whom are here today. That's from 4 to 8 p.m. Pacific time. You get there just going to the same place you did before. Join meweonline.com or jointhefair.com. They go to the same place. We'll be announcing all the practitioners there probably tomorrow. And then on Saturday, if you are dating and you're interested in connecting with other people in the metaphysical world, we have our spiritual metaphysical singles mingle. So it's an opportunity to connect with other singles in the context of engaging more authentically with dating. So that is 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific time. And I think that's also in the same Zoom room. And then also coming up on Saturday, December 30, we have a practice circle from 4 to 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. So an opportunity to practice your gifts with peers. And then Oh, I skipped one thing. Thursday, December 28th, we have a panel coming up on the power of revealing. What secrets are you holding in and how is that taking away your energy? Oh, an opportunity to explore that. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It's been great being here with all of you. I just love all the different things that we explored today and all the paradox. This has been really fun. Oh yeah, thank you, panelists, and look forward to more. And you can find out more about all of our events at mewefairs.com. All right, take care, everyone. Thank you for being here in the audience too.